Welcome back, Daisy Cakes. Today we're going to be looking at the 1959 Hugo Awards and picking one nominee to add to our TBR. Why? Because I am Daisy Ex Machina, the drag queen detective who investigates all things speculative in science fiction, fantasy, and horror. Now, before I did 1956, so why are we skipping 57 and 58? There was no Hugos in 1957. In 1958, there was just one winner, Fritz Lieber's The Big Time, and I may go ahead and do a review on that one because the cover looks so insane and I love Fritz Lieber, but there was nothing to choose from, so I do a video. So we're going to do a 1959 retrospective of the Hugos and then pick one of the nominees or the winner to add to our TBR. So let's go ahead and list all the nominees and announce who the winner was, read the blurbs, and then we'll pick a novel. And the nominees for the 1959 Hugo Awards are The Enemy Stars by Poul Anderson, A Case of Conscience by James Blish, Who by Algis Budrys, Have Spacesuit Will Travel by Robert A. Heinlein, and Immorality, Inc. by Robert Sheckley. And the winner is A Case of Conscience by James Blish. Now, I am familiar with the names of all these authors, and I've read at least the Heinlein book. I think I may have read the Sheckley book. I'm not sure, but maybe the blurb will jog my memory. We're going to read each blurb, and then from that, we're going to pick one book to add to my TBR. So let's go ahead and read the Hugo winner, A Case of Conscience by James Blish. If that name is familiar, that's because he wrote the adaptations to the original Star Trek series, which he credited as securing him financially. And you might know him from Cities in Flight. I think I have it somewhere in my collection. But I just pulled up A Case of Conscience, and it says, After Such Knowledge, number 4. So this is a series. I'm not sure what's going on with that, but the blurb reads as follows. Father Ruiz Sanchez is a dedicated man, a priest who is also a scientist, and a scientist who is also a human being. He has found no insoluble conflicts in his beliefs or his ethics until he is sent to Lithia. There he comes upon a race of aliens who are admirable in every way except for their total reliance on cold reason. They are incapable of faith or belief. Confronted with a profound scientific riddle and ethical quandary, Father Ruiz Sanchez soon finds himself torn between the teachings of his faith, the teachings of his science, and the inner promptings of his humanity. There is only one solution. He must accept an ancient and unforgivable heresy and risk the futures of both worlds. That sounds pretty amazing. I'm getting Canticle for Leibowitz for some reason because of the religion. And I'm very curious about this one. This is definitely also a contender. Now, I have read Poul Anderson before. I have not found his writing to sort of sink for me, but I'm willing to give him another chance. Let's go ahead and read the blurb for The Enemy Stars. The time is the 23rd century, and ships are crawling outward from Earth into the interstellar depths. It will take them centuries to reach even the nearest stars, but once they do, future travel will be instantaneous because the ships carry matter transmitters that are not subject to the limitations of light speed. In the meantime, crews can flit back and forth between the ships and Earth, but until now, their only purpose has been to stand watch until now. At last, one ship has made contact with the stars. Now, I really like the concept of this. We have, transporters, instantaneous travel, and we have to move the teleport machines to another planet to go there. But I love how people don't have to stay in a generation ship. They can just flit back and forth from the ship until it reaches its destination. And I like the concept a lot. So yeah, this one is a strong maybe. Okay, now let's look up Who by Algis Budrys. And I keep getting a mix up with Anthony Burgess, and they're spelled differently. So no relation. And I don't believe I've read this author before, although the name is familiar. Martino was a very important scientist working on something called the K-88, but the K-88 exploded in his face and he was dragged across the Soviet border. There he stayed for months. When they finally gave him back, the Soviets had given him a metal arm and an expressionless metal skull. So how could Allied security be sure he actually was Martino? Okay, so this one is obviously inspired by the Cold War or informed by the Cold War. I'm not sure I'm really in the mood for something like this, although it sounds kind of intriguing. I don't know if this is the one I want to read this month. So let's move on. Next up is Have Spacesuit Will Travel by Robert A. Heinlein. I definitely have read this. In fact, I did a whole video where I read all the Heinlein juveniles and ranked them, which you can read up here. So I'm not going to pick this one to add to my TBR since I've already read it, but I'll go ahead and read the blurb for you. Kip from Midwest Centerville, USA, works the summer before college as a pharmacy soda jerk and wins an authentic stripped-down spacesuit in a soap contest. He answers a distress radio from Pee-wee, scrawny ragdoll-clutching genius aged 11. With the comforting cop Mother Thing, three-eyed tripod worm faces kidnap them to the moon and Pluto. Now this actually is a terrible blurb for Have Spacesuit Will Travel. It is about Kip. He wants to go to the moon, and he enters this contest to come up with a soap jingle, and the entire town pitches in and collects these little, I guess, tabs from the soaps to send into the contest, and he does not win his trip to the moon. He wins the second place prize, which is a broken down spacesuit that he builds up, and he gets on an adventure when he's kidnapped and finds himself with this little girl, Pee-wee, and this alien Mother Thing. I actually really like this book. I personally think Heinlein's Juveniles are some of its best work. But moving on. Okay, I believe I've read Robert Sheckley before. I can't think of the title I've read, but looking this up, I'm a little bit thrown because it says Hob Draconian number 3. And also says it's the basis for the movie Free Jack, which I believe I did see Free Jack. So I thought this might be the novel where some guy who finds himself with the genes for immortality is being hunted down for people that want to drain his blood to get immortality. That's not what this is, I don't believe. But let's go ahead and read the blurb and find out. First published in 1959 as a startling, revolutionary novel of the future, then pushed to new cinematic limits as the feature film adaptation Free Jack in 1992. Robert Sheckley's unsettling vision of tomorrow now arrives in ebook format for the 21st century. Thomas Blaine awoke in a white bed in a white room and heard someone say, "He's alive now." Then they asked him his name, age, and marital status. Yes, that seemed normal enough, but what was his talk about death trauma? Thus was Thomas Blaine introduced to the year 2110, where science had discovered the technique of transferring a man's consciousness from one body to another, where a man's mind could be snatched from the past when his body was at the point of death and brought forward into a host body in this fantastic future world. But that was only a small part of it, for the future had proved the reality of life after death and discovered worlds beyond or simultaneous with our own, worlds where, through scientific techniques, a man could live again in another body when he died here. And in the process, the reality of ghosts, poltergeists, and zombies was also established. What did it all mean? How had this discovery of what they called the hereafter shaped the world of 2110? Thomas Blaine found himself living in a future where the discoveries and techniques imagined by people of his time, while having come about, were completely overwhelmed by discoveries no one had ever dreamt of. Okay, this totally wasn't the story I was thinking of, but it sounds amazing. I vaguely remember seeing the movie Free Jack. I remember it had Mick Jagger in it, but I don't remember the story at all. But this sounds really fascinating. This uploading to bodies, other realities, ghosts, poltergeists. I mean, this is ticking a lot of boxes that gets me excited. So, okay, this is kind of hard because I actually like all these, maybe not Who, but A Case of Conscience, sort of that religious novel about the priest who has a crisis of faith. The Enemy Stars, I like that teleporting thing. But you know what? I am really fascinated by Immorality, Inc. So I'm going to choose the Robert Sheckley novel to add to my TBR, Immorality, Inc. And I may rewatch Free Jack to see how closely it follows it. I have a feeling it doesn't do a good job. But what about you? Which of these 1959 Hugo nominees would you have picked to add to your TBR? Let me know down in the comments. And while you're there, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Also, let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought about them. Until we meet again, may all the books you read be blessed.